Hello and welcome to News Trash here on The Geek Show, the weekly blast of white-hot news in which myself, Rob, and other Rob look at the events of the past 7 days of video games and pass comment and make sarky remarks at the back of the classroom about all the things that have been going on. As I highlighted just there, I'm Rob, and I'm joined as ever by other Rob. Hello there.
Hello. Yeah, I'm casually there with a piece of paper that I've shoved in my gob, and I'm making a spitball to fire at the console manufacturers at the front.
Yeah, there would kind of be the nerdy kids at the front, wouldn't there?
Exactly. We're rambunctious. It's my word of the week, rambunctious.
Yeah, if you want, Rob, if you want.
It's been an interesting week in terms of legalities around video games, hasn't it?
I mean, even before we get into the news, before we started doing this, news was genuinely quite quiet. There'd be one bit a week that was worth talking about, but you have platforms that stretch that one bit of the news into about 12 hours of content.
Yeah.
But it seems that the video game world knew we were coming, because since we started doing this show, I think this is episode 14.
Yeah.
The video game news world has been crazy.
Yeah. And we decided right at the beginning that someone who works in games as a game developer who's making a game, that's not really news, that's just a person doing their job.
Man does job. Just break it down into its news and put it on the front of a newspaper. The headline is, Man does new job. And
yeah.
That's not news.
Man who makes things is making a new thing.
Yeah. That's not anything.
Exactly.
Unless it's like a true paradigm shift of a thing, which, by the very definition, is super rare.
Yeah. Anyway, let's leave that. Move on to Sony, who they're in a little bit of hot water. This could possibly have long-lasting effects. There is a new lawsuit that's been filed by a group of consumers. It's a class action lawsuit, and it regards exclusivity on its digital storefront.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Sony's store has become the only place that players can purchase certain digital games. And after Sony stopped, this is after Sony stopped allowing third-party retailers to sell download codes 2 years ago. Now, the lawsuit states that consumers may spend up to 175% more to download a game on the PlayStation Store than they would on purchasing a physical copy of the game. The consumers have said in the filing, Sony's monopoly allows it to charge supra-competitive prices for digital PlayStation games, which are significantly higher than their physical counterparts sold in a competitive retail market, and significantly higher than they would be in a competitive retail market for digital games.
Yeah.
You know, this is... It's actually addressing an issue that's been ongoing for quite a long time.
Let's just reword this. Let's just simplify it.
Yeah.
Basically, there's no competition. It's a monopoly. Sony can charge whatever they want.
Yeah, basically. And that means... the fact that this lawsuit has been brought about now, I think, is a great thing, because with the push to move to digital-only consoles, one of the big effects of that was going to be that they could basically keep the price of the digital copy of the games at the same price as it was originally released, like several years ago.
Yeah, you can save a lot of money on the actual machine. The digital devices are much cheaper.
Yeah.
Like about 100 at least cheaper. But you're losing that saving by digital games being incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, even before the business practices side of it, it's never made sense to me, because, a lot of the cost of physical production is the disc, is the case, is the distribution.
Yeah.
But when there is no case, when there is no disc, when there is no distribution beyond the cloud, how can it be justified that the price is the same?
Well, this has always confused me, because a big portion of the developmental costs have always been production and distribution, production of the physical copy and distribution of the physical copy.
Yeah.
That hasn't really changed. In fact, I think that's only become more expensive as fuel costs have risen, as the cost of materials has risen. So that's only become more expensive. And that's usually been the lion's share of the cost of any physical copy of a game. But for some reason, in the last couple of years, we're expected to believe that a digital copy of a game should be the same price as a physical copy of the game, and I think that's completely wrong.
I mean, I always do this when it comes to digital, but that's Bandcamp.
Yeah.
I want the digital-only copy. There's like different tiers. Digital, physical, digital, and you get the digital with the physical.
Yeah.
And like a version where you get like a bit of merch or whatever. Digital is always remarkably cheaper than the physical, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And that's a company which it needs its profit margins more than a company like Sony because it's tiny. Bandcamp is tiny compared to Sony, but changing the prices for digital versus physical, they still make enough profit to be a very, very profitable business. So what is the justification for a company the size of Sony, which may not be one of the biggest companies in the world, but they are very, very well off?
Yeah.
So what is the justification beyond corporate greed?
There isn't actually a justification. Okay, let's say the last Yakuza game, Yakuza Like a Dragon, yeah?
Yeah.
The only reason it's popped in my head is because we were talking about it before we started recording. But I'm using it as an example. Physical copy of Yakuza Like a Dragon on the PlayStation 4, around 50 quid, yeah?
Yeah, give or take.
Okay, so ballpark figure, around 50 quid. The digital copy is exactly the same price. Yet, the digital copy is basically there on the storefront. It's been uploaded to a server and I can download it from there. The physical copy has had to be produced. The code has had to be copied onto the disc. The disc has had to be produced. Cases had to be produced. It's had to be shipped from where it was produced to the actual store. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
There are all sorts of extra costs involved in that process.
But we're just sort of circling the same point here. I think at the end of the day, if this results in a situation where games can be physically sold as, well, not physically, but digitally sold as codes from the companies who made them websites, or whether there's a third-party store on all of these platforms. I mean, Sony are the one who've drawn the ire of industry professionals, but Microsoft are just as responsible for this, and so and Nintendo. So
yeah.
If it comes to a situation where Nintendo, Microsoft and Sony have third-party stores where you can also buy the games, that is what the best response to this court case could possibly be.
Yes, having third-party stores on these systems would be great. Whatever the case may be, I'm hopeful that it does lead to cheaper games.
Competition drives prices down.
Yep, exactly. Speaking of driving prices down, do you remember last week we were talking about Microsoft's PC storefront? Their PC game store, and how it reduced its its revenue from games from 30% to 12%. Yeah?
I remember.
Well, there has been talk, it has been reported that Microsoft was also considering doing that on Xbox as well, on its consoles, which would have been a big, big move, I reckon.
And there's not really much to say about this. Honestly, I think it's just related to a story which will come up later, but trying to make Microsoft as profitable as possible.
Yeah, I mean,
a marketplace which has totally gotten away from them.
Yeah, I mean, this is a news that's come out from the Epic versus Apple court case that started earlier on this week. So this is something that's spun out of that. And if you remember last week, I said that Microsoft making this move on the PC storefront was possibly them trying to preempt the whole antitrust lawsuit thing that seems to be the rage these days. Spotify's gone against Apple with antitrust. The European court system is basically looking at Apple about antitrust issues. It seems to be the common thing. And Epic as well have taken Apple to court over this whole 30% revenue thing from games. They want it dropped to 12%. So this might be something to do with that. I don't know. But it's there and it remains to be seen. But I think it's a big change in terms of how much money they have coming in, which is, it does lead us on to the next story, which is Microsoft. They basically confirmed they don't make a profit on Xbox console sales.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, it's justifiable now because they're pushing the services.
Yeah.
Games Pass especially. But Game Pass didn't really get to its own sort of rhythm and being excellent until I'd say the last quarter, probably even later than that, of the last generation. So the original Xbox, I can understand why that wasn't profitable. They were launching into a marketplace which didn't really need them. The Xbox 360 wasn't profitable despite how many that sold. How? I don't understand how they could manage that. That's insane.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, this is again something that's spun out of the Epic versus Apple court case. And a lawyer asked if Microsoft sells consoles at a loss, why does it keep selling them? And the response was, because the business model is set up to deliver an end-to-end consumer experience, and they make money in the long run over sales and subscriptions. The lawyer then asked, has Microsoft ever earned a profit on the sale of an Xbox console? And the response was no.
I mean, Xbox One, yeah, understandable, but that's really changed my opinion of Xbox, that.
Yeah, but do you know the bizarre thing? Apparently this is nothing new for the industry.
Microsoft, yeah, fair enough. But Sony always make a profit on all of their machines. Nintendo always make a profit on all of their machines because they sell a lot of devices.
Not so. That's the thing.
Well, not always, but...
weirdly enough, that's not the case. According to the files from this court case, Nintendo is making a profit from the Switch, but hardware is still generating a loss for PlayStation.
Well, now, yeah. But it made a profit with the PlayStation 4 very early.
It made a profit with the PlayStation 4, but the PlayStation 3, it made a loss. The PlayStation 2, it made a profit.
Oh, yeah, it's understandable when you look at what actually happened with the industry then.
Yeah.
It made an absolute fudge of the PlayStation 3 where they had to go through many, many redesigns.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the bizarre thing. You would think in an industry as big as the video games industry that the consoles would have some degree of profitability. But I think that's in terms of volume sales, isn't it?
Yeah, it makes you question why they go through so many iterations when it clearly isn't profitable.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, it goes back to the ages of like the original run of consoles, the original sort of 4 generations of consoles, and it was like one model, that's it.
Yeah, and
that'd be honest, much more profitable.
I mean, how much of that though was based on the technology available at the time?
Well, there's a lot of that, but at the same time, one model. It's a SNES. That's it.
Yeah.
It's not like this model, that model, the other model, and the in betweens.
I know we're talking about like Nintendo and Sony and Atari, but let's not include Sega in that, shall we?
But yeah, Microsoft are notorious for releasing way too many iterations.
Yeah,
I mean the number of 360s beggars belief.
I mean, the PlayStation 3 was just the same though.
Yeah.
The PlayStation 3 and the 360, I don't understand why they had to have so many different versions of both consoles.
I mean, in today's age, all you really need is original model, maybe mid-generation refresh, and a slim.
Yeah.
That's pushing it.
Well, I mean, the PlayStation 4, did it have a slim version?
Yeah, it did.
I don't remember it. Obviously, it didn't register on my radar.
Well, because you didn't need it because you got the Pro, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre to me that the industry is normalising losing money in such a large scale.
Well, I mean, I can understand if it's pushing for long-term subscription model income, but that still doesn't counterbalance the cost to benefit ratio. It doesn't actually make sense to rely solely on these small amounts, this trickle income that you're hoping will become a river at some point in the future.
Yeah, it's just really weird mental gymnastics that they've tied themselves up in because, it's big business and they've kind of lost grasp of reality a little bit.
So, yeah, speaking of big business, interesting move by Discord. They have decided to, Sony have basically bought shares in Discord.
Minority shares, yeah.
Yeah, I think they own like 5% or 6% of Discord now. And so Sony are now working in partnership with Discord and bringing Discord services to the PlayStation experience, as they call it.
This is kind of telling, recently there's talks of Microsoft buying them for $10 billion, and the thing that I took away from Sony getting it on their system is, and, them backing down with the deal with Microsoft is, Discord value themselves way, way, way higher than 10 billion.
Well,
and they see value in being across multiple devices.
I actually, I agree with you on that. The thing that strikes me about the Discord move is Discord is big on PC. It's big with PC gamers.
Yes.
But they've never really had a proper install base on a console, not even on Microsoft consoles. Working with Sony, they'll basically have access to all of these Sony players, and Sony players will basically dive headfirst into using Discord. They'll probably already use it on their PCs to talk to other gamer friends.
Because the parties and the communities thing was really, really badly implemented. Going back further than that, there was PlayStation Home as well, so they're really getting into the community aspect of being a gamer with the best community aspect for gamers.
Yeah, and
or software for gamers, but
See, I think this is a big play on the part of Discord. Sony buying 5-6% of Discord, and then what that allows Discord to do, it really raises their value because their install base is across multiple devices, as you said. But if they then go on and float themselves on the stock market, their initial offering is going to be much higher than 10 billion.
Much higher. I think it's probably close to about what?
Probably 50, I'd say.
Yeah, something like that, given how there's no ceiling for this thing.
And it depends on how many people use Discord on PlayStation. If everybody dives into using Discord, or if it's automatically there with your PlayStation, if PlayStation decide to actually include it as part of your PlayStation subscription, not even PS Plus, just as part of your PlayStation login, right? You remember how you used to have YouTube with Gmail automatically? Kind of that sort of thing. Just,
to use a mobile phone term, it's just bloatware which is installed in a upcoming system update. You just get it. It's there. It's not like you have to click onto Discord. It's just say click start party, and it's not that party opens Discord or some sort of Discord integration into the PlayStation user interface, and it just works like that. It's just part of the system.
Exactly. And if it's that sort of thing, Discord's value could potentially be much higher than 50. It could go as high as 70.
Yeah. Well, that's just hypothetical, throwing numbers out into the dark. But yeah, it's quite shrewd for them to remain independent and do a deal like this.
Exactly. So I've got to say, hats off to Discord for doing a deal like this. It's not that common in video games that you see a third party who isn't heavily involved in making games or consoles manage to pull off a move like this.
Of course, they could also do the same with, come up with the same sort of deal with Nintendo and Microsoft. Nothing stops them from doing that.
Well, that may be the case. I mean, they may open the doors for that. I mean, Sony may have opened the doors for Nintendo and Microsoft to get in on some of this action, and if they do, then Discord's value is literally going to skyrocket.
Like I said, there's no roof on this.
Yeah. I'm actually quite shocked at how, because I'm imagining if they do actually manage to do something with Nintendo and Microsoft, I am actually shaking at the thought of how much Discord will be worth. Some quick news stories before we move into our regular trailer trash, and we've got a doozy for trailer trash this week, but some quick news stories. E3 have confirmed that there are going to be various companies at E3. Sega, Bandai Namco, Square Enix, and they've already confirmed Nintendo, Xbox, Capcom, Ubisoft, Take-Two, Warner Brothers Games, and Konami, although Konami have dropped out. They are also being joined by Exceed Games / Marvelous USA, Gearbox Entertainment, Freedom Games, Devious Eye Entertainment, Turtle Beach, Verizon, Binge.com, and those three I mentioned, Sega, Square Enix, and Bandai Namco.
Here's the thing, right? The old E3 was like a floor show. Yeah. A show floor, words, where people could walk around and talk to all the independent developers. But,
a floor show is a very different thing. That involves lots of singing and dancing, maybe some feathers.
But the thing here is they can't do that because it's totally digital. So the question remains, what sort of event is this? Because it can't be what it was before. It just can't. So, further question is, how much value does it have when everybody else is doing their own independent show? There's Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest, there's IGN's doing their thing, PlayStation will have their independent shows, Nintendo will have their independent shows, Microsoft will do also separate showcases. So really, what is this at E3 and where is its value? That's what it all comes down to me.
Yeah, and I really couldn't say any more than that. It's going to be June the 12th to June the 15th, and we'll have to see how it goes, because there's a lot riding on... the ESA have a lot at stake with this E3. This year will determine the future of E3.
Yeah, honestly, I think the end... This is their last hurrah, because the industry's moved on from E3.
Yeah. So anyway, moving on to Games Awards, and Tribeca Film Festival is holding its first ever Games Award.
Well, that's cool, because I like Tribeca. They're one of the more interesting independent film bodies.
Well, the games under consideration, and some of these we've already had a look at, the trailers for them anyway, but the games under consideration are not the games that most people would think of. The Big Con, Harold Halibut, Kena Bridge of Spirits, Lost in Random, Norco, Sable, Signalis, and 12 Minutes.
Yeah, see, there's two takeaways here. The Tribeca is deeply independent as a film thing, so the fact that they're carrying that on with video game stuff is good. But the question this made me think of is, I think we could do with a bit of a Thanos snap when it comes to video game awards. Because when you hear like statistics like, I think Last of Us Part 2 won 284 awards.
Yeah.
It makes you think when there's so many, they don't mean anything anymore.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. And I think that the problem with the Games Awards, especially a lot of them that were awarded to the likes of The Last of Us 2, a lot of them are based on give and take. They're not based on actual quality or actual critical consensus. They're based on give and take. There's a lot of give and take in the video games industry. There's a lot of, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Yeah, which is very much emblematic of what the industry's like, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, most entertainment industries are like that. And so when you see something like Tribeca, that are trying to be truly independent, I think that's one thing that we need in video games, and the sooner the better.
More independent games need celebrating, and it needs to be normalised that it's just a different style of game, not that little cheap crap game with 8-bit graphics.
Yeah, Hades won a lot of awards, yeah?
Deservedly so, from what I heard, yeah.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere, won a lot of awards, and apparently had a much better, much tighter story than The Last of Us 2 and even Ghost of Tsushima.
Mm-hmm.
And so why wasn't that Game of the Year?
Okay, one final point before we move on to the next story.
Yeah.
The way the awards bodies go is essentially the only movies that get, or the only games that get awards are AAA games.
Yeah.
That's like having all of your awards as the film industry being blockbusters.
Yeah.
Which just is unsustainable, so I think it needs to reflect the full gamut of what video game output is like, and to do that, I think a lot of these awards need to just sort of go away and it'd be a lot more simplified and having a true Oscars equivalent. The Games Award aren't an Oscars equivalent because it's basically Jeff Keighley and friends showing some trailers and the punctuation in between it is awards.
The Oscars this year really surprised me with how much more open they were in terms of the things that were nominated for a start. I was over the moon that Chloe Zhao won Best Director, and from what I've seen of Nomadland, I think it was a worthy winner.
Yeah. Okay. So, moving on.
Moving on to Resident Evil Village. It's the game that everyone's talking about. It's the game that everyone's playing because of a certain 8-foot lady who apparently everyone has a crush on. I don't, personally, but,
It's very creepy.
Yeah. Apparently people are talking about the fact that Resident Evil Village, Resident Evil 8, was balanced based on feedback that Resident Evil 7 was too scary to play.
Yeah. So they've toned down the horror, essentially, is what the takeaway there.
Yeah.
And that is basically using temperatures to gauge interest. That has taken me from red hot inferno to tepid flame that's about to go out.
Yeah, I mean, do you remember Resident Evil 6?
Yeah.
Yeah. How scary was it?
It wasn't. I mean, the whole point of Resident Evil 6 was based on fan feedback, with fans saying, oh, we want more scary stuff, and another portion of fans saying, oh, we want it to be Call of Duty. So what the game became was that nonsense.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're doing, not quite as egregious, obviously,
yeah,
but the fact that they're listening to fan feedback and reacting in the most superficial of ways makes me really, really worried. And like I said, it's basically killed any anticipation I have for Resident Evil Village. This one story.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, right, there's a point to horror, and that is to scare the pants off you. If you are finding something too scary, then walk away from it. Don't complain about it because it's a horror game or a horror movie. You've gone there to be scared.
Here's the thing, right? It's like watching a comedy and saying that comedy was too funny. Can you tone it down a bit for the next one?
Yeah, exactly.
It's exactly the same thing. Which you don't do that. It's stupid.
There's too much romance in this romance movie. I want less romance.
Take out a bit for the sequel.
Exactly.
No. It's too much sci-fi in this sci-fi. All right, in the sequel, there's no science at all whatsoever. It's just stupid.
Exactly. And also, game developers, stop listening to the fans. You've got your own vision of how the game should be. Make that game. Game development is art by committee, okay? Be artists. Stick to your own vision. Stick to your guns. Because if people like it, they'll like it. If they don't, they don't.
Here's the thing, right, games developers. Your vision is beautiful. Be true to your vision.
Exactly.
This has killed my anticipation for Resident Evil. So, I mean, I'm going to get this when it's, like, really cheap now. Just to punish them.
Yeah. I mean, right. Look, art is bizarre and strange and wonderful and, sometimes it needs time to process, but that's art. And I think that games developers, when they do, they are artists. They work together to create a piece of art.
Mm-hmm.
So just stick to your guns. Everyone thought Picasso, Van Gogh, people like that were crazy. Now their works sell for tens of millions of pounds.
It's not really a like-for-like comparison, but yeah, I'll see what you're going for.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, from the artistic to the this is, I don't know how to process this. It's kind of bizarre, and since some of those letters also make up the word Blizzard, then you can kind of see where I'm going. Blizzard has moved to block a trademark that's been put forward by Fox Media, and it has to do with the name Diablo. Now, Fox applied to register the term as a trademark in relation to its show Housebroken, an animated series due to debut at the end of the month that revolves around a therapy dog helping other animals, including a dog named Diablo.
Which is Spanish for devil, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Now, Fox's application covered specifically the use of the name on glassware, dinnerware, toothbrushes, cookie jars, lunchboxes, and pet bowls, among other things, as well as pet food and treats. Blizzard argued that it would be damaged by the registration of the term by Fox, as it has used it over the past 25 years for its game franchise, and Blizzard registered Diablo as a trademark for a variety of uses in April 1996. I'm confused by this one. Isn't this so the first?
Hang on. If basically they had registered a trademark in 1996, nobody else would be able to use it. So what's true? Did they register it or didn't they?
They registered it in 1996, but now they're challenging Fox over Fox's application.
But if they registered it, Fox wouldn't have a legal foot to stand on. They wouldn't have even bothered to try. They'd have looked into it and thought, okay, it's taken.
Yeah. Do you know what I think has happened here? Right. I think that when Blizzard registered the trademark, they possibly envisioned all sorts of merchandise. But what Fox has done, they're also registering it for merchandise as well. And somewhere in there, I think the glassware in particular is one of the areas where the two clash. If there was no crossover in terms of merchandise, I think that because obviously Fox also want to create little toys of their Diablo dog, whatever it is, whereas Blizzard have toys of Diablo already, of the Devil Diablo from their games. So there's going to be cross purposes there. And so this is one of those things where they need to have some legal argy-bargy. But I just find, Blizzard's version of Diablo versus Fox's, therapy dog. That's
very, very different. I will say this: I believe that Activision Blizzard are an evil company, so I have no sympathy from whatsoever.
Yeah, but this is Fox we're talking about as well.
Compared to Activision Blizzard, they're nothing really. The Pussycats.
No, this is Fox.
Yeah, but you're comparing it to a company like Activision Blizzard, who basically lay off half the staff and then gave Bobby Kotick a $50 million bonus year on year.
There's a reason.
The tip of the iceberg. Why?
Yeah, but there's a reason. Company. There's a reason why The Simpsons made all those jokes about Fox. There's a reason why they made all those jokes about Fox.
But compared to Activision Blizzard, though, Rob, seriously, it's like you're comparing a lesser demon to like the ultimate one.
No, I'm not. That's the thing. I think they're both like really bad, really evil.
Okay.
I don't want to even get into. I don't want to get a measuring stick and go, right, how evil are you, Fox, and how evil are you, Activision?
Yeah, fair enough. Neither of them are good, and this is just weird. Yeah, move on.
Evil versus evil in court. Actually, it's kind of ironic that they're fighting over the name Diablo then, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, evil versus evil in court, isn't that basically Apple versus Epic as well?
Yeah, kind of.
But moving on.
Anyway. Trailer trash. It's time for some trailer trash. And the trailer for Lost Judgment, the sequel to Judgment, by Ryuga Gotoku Studio, has leaked online, and we've seen it. And
it's not leaked. It's been officially launched.
Well, officially launched. It was leaked originally, but it's been officially launched quickly after that, I should say. But yeah, we've seen it. And Rob, I'll let you take over from here.
Well, if you watch our sister show, Monthly Marmalade, I think there's about 3 episodes of that where I just talked about how much I absolutely adore. This is one of the finest pieces of detective fiction in video games.
He means the original Judgment.
Yeah, married with the Yakuza system, but with a fight system which is much more flexible.
Yeah.
With a brand new gallery of amazing characters which I adore.
Yeah, just so people who are, more recent listeners understand, Rob and I both adore the Yakuza franchise, going back to the original game when it came out on the PlayStation 2, and even further back to the original Shenmue, which, then spun into the Yakuza games. So, we've got a long time association with the franchise that's become Judgment.
Yeah, not one of these Johnny-come-latelys. But, yeah, this is fantastic, because there was, a lot of talk going around that this wouldn't happen because the original got in a lot of bother for one of the voice actors being found guilty to snorting a bit on the side.
Yeah, and...
But I guess they ignored that, went in, and they think, hang on, is that all zeros? We made that much money.
Exactly.
Screw the cocaine. We're doing a sequel.
See, this is the thing. The voice acting community. It used to be that voice actors over in Japan, they had to be on the straight and narrow. They were always being watched, paparazzi always following them, everything like that. But that started changing, several years ago, and I think they're kind of a lot more amenable to people making mistakes. It used to be the case where they absolutely had to be rigidly, on the line all of the time, which led to, mental health issues and all sorts of other problems for the voice actors. But now things seem to have relaxed a bit more. They're still quite strict. There are still things you can and can't do.
But short story of this is, I absolutely adore you, Judgment, and the fact that it's getting a second one so quickly.
Yeah.
It's just, and it's a global release as well, so it's not like it's been released in Japan 3 years ago and we're finally getting it. It seems to be released synchronous. It's a global release, everybody's getting it at the same time, so that is wonderful. Even though the trailer had an English voice acting, and when I was watching it, I was like, who the hell are these people? That's not really Agami. Who the hell is this?
We're not playing it in English, you know this.
Who are these people pretending to be my favourite people?
There is no way we're playing this in English.
But yeah, I'm really, really, really looking forward to it. This has gone from I didn't know about it to basically my most anticipated game in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, the trailer is quite long, but I'll tell you what I love about the Lost Judgment trailer is that even with so much already in the trailer, you still don't know a lot about the story. You have some ideas, but that's about it. You don't know how it's going to end. You don't know. You don't know who lives or who dies. You don't know who's the bad guy and who isn't.
Here's the thing about Yakuza and Judgment. This is the elevator pitch of why they're so great. It's basically an amazing series of TV.
Yeah.
Like the best series of TV, and you get to beat up people with bikes.
Yes. I mean, imagine like the first 7 seasons of Game of Thrones in 1 2-minute trailer. You'd get an idea that, hey, it's fantasy, it's got dragons, people die, and maybe a bit of incest. And that's it.
Yeah. But yeah,
and that's all you know.
This is very much anticipated by us too.
Yeah. I mean, it's... and do you know what I love? Is that they've managed to age the main character a little bit as well. He doesn't look as fresh-faced as he does in the first game.
Well, after what he goes through in the first game, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, this is true.
He goes through some stuff and things, Rob. And things.
He's working out his problems. That's all he's doing. He's just working through his problems.
Yes. So that's it for this week's edition of News Trash. And long may this reign of mad news weeks where all the things are happening continue, because this would be a much harder show to do if there was nothing happening. Yeah, check out our Patreon if you enjoy the cut of our jib. You can find links to that in the description, as well as the Spotify link to listen to this if you want to listen to us while you're doing your couch to 5k or whatever you do when you're out and about in the world now. But for now, thank you for listening and staying with us all the way to the end. We really, really do appreciate it. And we shall see you next time with more news and more trash.
Bye!